Welcome to an SME Media webinar. I'm Amy Bryson, contributing lead editor of Smart Manufacturing Magazine. Today we'll be talking about meeting demand and managing change, frontline first tools for manufacturing resilience. And now I'm excited to introduce our speakers for today. Scott Hodges has 30 plus years of experience in production and manufacturing engineering. At Mack Molding, which is a contract manufacturer, Scott leads a team of manufacturing engineers, technicians, and assemblers who plan, build, and execute the production of medical devices and commercial products. And joining Scott is Humberto Silva, who has more than 20 years experience in manufacturing, program management, and consulting. After spending 6 years of his early career in multiple manufacturing roles at Procter & Gamble, Humberto pursued an MBA and then transitioned into consulting, specializing in program management. And at Tulip, Humberto is a customer success manager, where he helps customers adopt and use Tulip to transform their operations. Now it's my pleasure to turn things over to our presenters. Welcome, gentlemen, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Amy, very much. And thank you, SME, for the opportunity to share this content with all of you. Hi, everyone. As Amy mentioned, I'm Humberto Silva, and I'm really excited to be here. First of all, thank you for taking 1 hour of your time to be with us. We have a pretty exciting agenda and a lot to cover in about the next 45 minutes. So without any further ado, let's jump right into it. For today, we have a 4-act play for you. We will start by giving you a little bit of context on Mack and the challenges that led to their digitalization journey. After that, we will focus on the strategy and tactics of implementing Tulip at Mack. Then we will offer some insights and learnings that you could apply to your own transformation journey. And last but not least, we will take some time to answer your burning questions. But before getting started, I would love for Scott to give us a little bit overview on who is Mack Molding and what is it that they do?
Yes, hi everyone. I'm Scott Hodges, and I'd like to say thank you too to the SME for inviting me to share our journey with others that are thinking about going down this road as well. So Mack Molding is a subsidiary of Mack Group. Mack Group includes Mack Molding, Mack Technologies, Synectic Product Development, and Mack Prototype. We have 12 facilities throughout North America, 3,000 plus employees, and over 1.5 million square feet of manufacturing space. We have the ability to take our customers' concepts all the way through prototype and finished product assembly build at Mack. What we're looking at here on the screen on the pilot manufacturing side is our Gardner, Massachusetts facility where we do prototyping. And what you can see here is one of our lines that's set up in prototype mode. On the right side, the middle picture is both pictures are actually our headquarters facility. What the middle picture represents is it's the 87,000 square feet of our assembly department. This is where we do our big, bulky, complex work. And on the right picture is a photograph of one of our manufacturing engineers on a production line working in a Tulip app.
Excellent, Scott. And again, I've been in one of your facilities, so I can attest to the multiple lines you have there. But just as a curiosity, how long have Mack Molding been around?
So Mack is 104 years old. So we've been around a while, and no, I haven't been here all of that time, even though I look like it.
And Scott, how many in your tenure with Mack? Again, just to provide some context to the audience, how many different products, ballpark, have you seen being manufactured there?
Well, I couldn't give you an exact number, but I'd say we're heading toward 100 for sure. I've been at Mack for over 28 years in engineering, and I'm very fortunate to have found Mack. It's a fantastic company to work for. It's family owned, and we have a very diverse customer base, real diverse product base as well. And it's been a great experience, and I've seen a lot of really good things, and many different markets that we cover. So
yeah, and I bet there's not that many people that have the fortune of seeing 100 different manufacturing processes firsthand. So that's pretty cool. Great. So moving on, Scott, let's start at the beginning to set up the stage here. What were the challenges that Mack was trying to solve, and how do you ended up like deciding into like looking into digital tools? So to begin with, what did Mack look like before digitalization?
yeah, Mac was really paper-based. It was really a slow, cumbersome process. It's expensive. We have our doc control group, well, our engineering group creating, paperwork instructions, which could be a single page to maybe 150 pages. It goes through our engineering change process. Once it's approved, then we have to print all of that out. Somebody would have to stamp every page. You'd have to physically deliver it out to the production floor. Somebody would have to, bring back the previous copy of it. It was just very, very slow. It wasn't agile in any way. And really what we were looking for was an adaptable solution. We knew we wanted something for an MES, but we wanted it to be adaptable and we wanted it to be flexible. Really trying to focus on digital work instructions, digital inspection plans, and real-time analytical feedback for our operators, for our management team, and for our customers.
Got it. So, Scott, I think what we're showing here is an example, an old example of your work instructions. So this is basically what you were trying to digitize. And how many of these ones you had at a single time before starting work with Tulip? How many variations of work instructions you guys handled?
Wow, that's a hard one. I really couldn't tell you, but there's a lot.
Too many to count.
Well, yeah, way too many to count. It's always, I'm always amazed when I do look and drill down and find those answers. But what we're looking at here is, there are two different pages of a work instruction, just trying to show a little bit of the context of what our work instructions look like. We've always been really pretty good at creating, work instructions and using symbolization and a lot of pictures, more pictures than words. But we really needed to get to that next level. There's really no depth to this. You can see on the screen that you're following one work instruction and then it's referring you to maybe a process traveler, where we're collecting other information. What we're really looking for is one system that can kind of handle all of that.
Got it. So you guys said enough is enough. We want to get out of paper. We want something scalable and we want something agile. What were the different, like, what were you looking at? What do you think about when evaluating different tools and options beyond those top requirements?
Yeah, we were really focused on flexibility, adaptability, and a partner that was, willing to work with us and grow. We didn't want a canned program where we had to adapt our processes to the software. We wanted software that could really fit our processes, software that's open and would enable us to have that flexibility. One of the challenges at Mack being a contract manufacturer is that we're a very different type of organization as compared to an OEM. We don't make any products for ourselves. All of our products are in the commercial, industrial, robotic, and medical markets. And because of that, we really need that flexibility and adaptability to span the breadth of products, and the technologies that we cover here at Mack.
I see. So thankfully, you guys did your research. You discovered Tulip. You said, well, this is a great idea. How do you get the org on board? How do you, again, knowing that Mack is not your typical organization, how were you able to get them on board in this journey?
Yeah, so we were pretty fortunate coming into our planning stage. Really our upper management was on board. Tulip is fairly close to us here in New England. We have a fairly large customer base here in New England. We were seeing all the great information that was being published on Tulip and the awards that were being won. So we had that piece, really behind us. But we decided to start, when we started our plan, we decided to really start small and strategically on one of our mature manufacturing lines. This line had been in production for several years prior to this. So processes and people were just very in tune with what we were doing. We also targeted our middle level engineering staff. The production line had some of our most senior folks on it. Some of those folks, they weren't comfortable with computers and they weren't very savvy with computers. So what we knew is if we could win this small battle, just focusing on this one line with some of our key operators and win them over as early adopters, that, by showing the benefits of what we could do with digital tools, that we could make their jobs better. And, we could really use them to help us win over the rest of our facility. And, interestingly enough, this team is, we started with Tulip in 2017, so this goes back a while, but this product line and this production team is still here and they're still manufacturing. And I know for a fact there's no way I could take Tulip away from them today because they just love it and they've just become so accustomed to so many different things that we weren't able to provide them in our paper system.
Awesome. I love to hear that. So you guys did your internal point of view. You started with a line, you started with a team. Great. You found your tool. Tulip is a tool to digitize. Now what? How do you start? How do you scale? What is the next step? So I'm just curious, how do you prioritize which lines to start with?
Yeah, so when we first started, we made the decision up front that we wanted to really focus on our most complex assembly lines. So, we chose not to focus on our commodity areas. It was really that 87,000 square feet that was shown in that first picture. And then we moved it down through our production lines from there. The benefits of having a digital MES system is really that flexibility that it gives us to better address our customer requirements, and having the necessary data in hand when we need it is really critical to our decision making and our efficiency here at Mack. Another piece that helped us really prioritize is in that big, bulky, complex world that we live in. Training is a really important factor. Tulip has really shown where it's beneficial in helping our operators train to these complex, diversified products. Again, OEM, Mack is not that OEM, right? So everything is different, and our production workers, our operators, they move from line to line. So having that one experience and something in front of them that they're comfortable with is really important. So again, the flexibility, the adaptability, the agility of what we were creating with Tulip is really what made the difference. And, we can do really cool things with our apps that we couldn't do in our paper system, like, creating videos to show really complex operations, and they're able to blow those videos up, replay them if they need to. And then on the flip side, we have the ability to have multi-stage work instructions, which, for somebody going through training, somebody brand new to this operation, they're watching every video, they're going through every step. But for our mature operators that have been building it for several years or several months, maybe it's a work standard. It's a 1 or 2 page work standard for them. So we have the flexibility to do that. And what Tulip really gives us here, it gives us the ability to close that gap, make this really interactive with our operators. This is something we could never do with paper. The other thing, I think that really kind of the third and final thought on this for me is we took multiple systems, so we had a paper travel or a paper work instruction, whatever else that might be needed, and we're able to combine it into one system, one app that is interactive. The operator is able to, follow the instructions to build the product. They're able to capture their genealogy data, or we call it critical to quality data, but it's genealogy data, things that are critical to the product, like serial numbers and lot codes. Calibration data, so anytime they touch a calibrated tool, our quality systems require us to capture that. And anything that's shelf life, shelf life falls into that same bucket. And we're able to do that with digital tools. Nobody's typing it out or writing it out where they can, make errors and transpose digits or dates or anything. So it really makes us better holistically, and it makes us more efficient.
Huh. Excellent, Scott. And I'm just curious. I'm listening to you. As I'm listening to you talk again, you start deploying Tulip in different lines. You have multiple group of engineers, multiple production lines. As you keep growing, or just keep expanding the implementation, how do you guys manage the scaling growth in an order way? Or to say differently, again, what are your learnings? How do you learn how to scale efficiently?
Well, there was a lot of discussion for our team in the beginning as how do we do that? We decided in the beginning to establish a system. Since we have a very large, diverse engineering group too. So, we have a staff of over 20 engineers that span both our manufacturing and our quality departments. They're creating apps. So we knew we needed to create some framework around how we do that if we were going to be effective and successful in the long run. So we focused on creating, we call it affectionately our Tulip manual, which really captures all of the standards of how we do Tulip here at Mack. So it's not on how you use the software. Tulip has great training videos and stuff on their website for that piece, but it's really how do we use Tulip here at Mack? What ties it to what we do here? And it really makes sure that it's scalable. There's some scalability for us as we go forward. And, if I inherit an app that somebody else created or vice versa, we all know that it's created around that standard. So that was a really critical thing. And that probably took us a little bit longer to get started on. There's always that, real excitement to get going and create something, but we knew we wanted rules before we went too far down that, because with so many engineers, it could end up to be a mess in the end if we weren't careful with it. So, some of the things that our manual focuses on is, like our variable naming conventions, how we interface Tulip with our document control system. We use Agile here at Mack. So it's all that stuff that's really specific to Mack, including an installation qualification, by the way. So, every station that we build for a Tulip station, we require it to go through an installation qualification where we look at, is it set up correctly? Does it have all the equipment on it that we need? Is it ergonomically correct and comfortable for our operators to use? So I think that too is a big piece of it. And then, moving on to the next piece of this was really building work standards. So our work standards focus on quality, safety, workmanship, and having all that stuff in the same place, using the same symbols, same colors, same formats. That's important to not only our engineering group, it's important for our operators that move around on our production floor. If they're on, production line A today and production line B tomorrow, they still know where all the information is. The content of what they do changes, but they know this is where I get my environmental controls. This is where I get my torque requirements and all my safety data. So we really wanted to make sure we standardized that. And what we chose to do is take these templates and validate them. So we took the core functionality that we want in every app and we validated those apps so that it made it easier for our engineering teams. They could just come in, so they could make a copy of our master template and then they superimpose over top of that template what their process and product specific requirements are. So the leapfrog for us is they don't have to validate all of the functionality of the app because the majority of it's already done. They only have to validate, the pieces that they're superimposing over the top of the template.
Great. And so what I'm looking here, what we're showing in the screen, Scott, is one example of that reusability.
Yeah, this is a good screenshot of really 4 different apps, and I'm trying to show the template. But what I realize looking at this now is it looks pretty flat, and it looks like a paper document. There's really no dimension to it. So what I'd like to do now is kind of highlight a little bit about what's the depth piece of our templates. So as I mentioned earlier, for like a mistake proofing, we don't want operators typing any information in to collect any type of data. We want to always use barcode scanners and capture that data automatically. It's faster, it's 100% more accurate. It's one of our key mistake proofing takeaways here. We're able to also capture data around how are our operators doing. So time per step, time for overall process, that's important to us for our overall analytics. We're able to capture all of that genealogy data, shelf life data, calibration data, just really endless amounts of information. And it's digital right from the beginning. And one other consideration around that, I want to make sure that I highlight because I think it's important. When we started this journey, we didn't want to automate processes that gave us bad data. We wanted to make sure we removed that piece of it. So we do what we call validation at point of entry. So using regex expressions in the background of Tulip and the triggers, you have the ability to make sure that you are collecting data that you expect. So we can look at things like, I expect this to be a 12 character alphanumeric barcode that they're scanning. Maybe it should have an A buried at position 5 in there. These are some of the ways that we're validating that, we really picked up a serial number of the product and we didn't pick up a part number, for example. So I think that's an important thing to consider as you build out your apps.
Great. Thanks for that.
Yeah. One last thing I want to highlight too here. We implemented a method that gave better communication between our operators and our manufacturing, our engineering folks. So every slide as part of our master template has a help button on it, and that creates that live dialogue. There's an instant email that goes out. It goes to the engineering team. Actually, I'm also copied on every one of them. What that does for us is, it takes away all the non-essential stuff that the operator doesn't really care about, but we do as an engineering team. So, we can capture what app they're on, what Tulip station they're on, who the operator is, what step in the operation they're on. We're collecting all of that automatically and really allowing the operator to just focus on the message that he or she wants to send to us as an engineering group. So it's a really nice, easy way for us to create a line of communication, for us to look at, continuous improvement efforts.
Huh. Scott, as I'm listening to you explain your process, I'm thinking like somebody might argue, well, you have a manual, you have standards, you're very rigorous. Wouldn't that actually make it more cumbersome and make it harder to actually develop an app because you have to follow all those rules? So my question for you is, how does that help you actually accelerate the time to value and how quickly you build the apps? Because sometimes it's a tension, right? I have to follow all these rules. Am I really being faster?
Yeah, I think it's really counterintuitive. So we're doing a lot of the work up front that enables us to leapfrog. We're really focusing heavily on training. So we actually have a training app. both for our operators and for our engineers. So when you come into having to create this app, you really have all this stuff already behind you. You're not starting from scratch. The templates get you so much further down the road when you're creating really new apps, because all of that validation work is already done. You know that all the buttons that are on there are doing what they're supposed to do. You know that the step where we basically draw from our ERP system, we draw that data into our app so that we have all the part numbers and the revisions and all the things that are important to us. You already know that all that functionality is there and it already works, so you don't have to really look back at that. And then I think, secondly, you're not focused on all of the triggers and the tables and all the stuff that is true to every single app that we do, because we've standardized that process. You're only focusing on things that are different that I need to capture for my particular customer or my particular product. So it is a little counterintuitive, but it gets you over the top much quicker.
Excellent. Again, this is one of those things that I was really impressed when I went visit your site. And this is a very similar question that I had is, again, too many processes, constant change. I know for a fact that your engineering change order process is very rigorous. How do you balance that with the need of the business to spawn a line, make changes quickly, and being agile?
As the saying goes, the only constant in life is change, and that's no different in industry. Generally, coming through our engineering department, we're looking at between 50 and 75 engineering change orders a week. That's a lot. So having systems in place that help us deal with that and be agile are really important. And a big part of that is the digital platform. For example, if we're setting up a prototype line in our Gardner facility and it gets to that mature point, or when it gets to that mature point and we want to move it into our headquarters facility, where we're really focused on more release processes and more stable products, it's literally a few mouse clicks for us to move that process over. We're going to move it from one instance or workspace to the other, and we're going to set the computers up in a shop floor package. Everything else is the same, so we don't have to worry about that. I think the standards also play a role in that agility. Again, I keep coming back to the standards, but to us, it was really so important. Having standards really makes the process easy and natural. Our operators are also familiar with the standards and how to use them, and where to find that information improves their quality of life for our operators. It really remains unchanged for them. And then, we're constantly in design transfer activities as a contract manufacturer. Design transfer activities are super critical, and the digital system helps us bring those products to fruition much faster. The process, the digital process, I think, is really kind of the magic potion here that helps us bring that big, bulky, complex work to the market for our customers. And a big part of that is just because of the way that we set the system up, and that it allows us to be agile and collect the data that we need and make quick changes on the fly that we couldn't do in our paper system. So, again, think about that paper process. If I wanted to make a change to a process out on the floor, maybe there are customers here in the building with us and I wanted to do it quickly. I had all of that other stuff that was in front of us that we had to do, like printing them out and stamping the pages and finding the other copies. It's literally the push of a button right now. Once that last approver in our engineering change system pushes the button that says, I approve this, our document control group approves it in Tulip. So we found a way to make this work really well with our Agile system by our engineers, when they create the app and they route the ECO, they hit the publish button at that point. That really creates a snapshot of it. So it's a compiled version that can't be changed at that point. It doesn't go any further now until in our engineering change system, till that last approver says, "Yep, that's good, I approve it," and then our doc control actually does the publishing or the approval, which does the automatic release of it to the floor. So all that other stuff is not really in between anymore.
Very interesting. It makes me think on the classic triad people process technology change. Again, it seems that you guys have the process, Tulip is the technology. I'm curious about the people part, because some may argue the hardest piece of change is the people part. So how do you engage your operators as you ramp up the lines? Like, yeah, how do you convince them that this is the way to go?
Operator feedback is always critical. Their engagement and their buy-in, those are super critical. And we engage all of our operators early. Even when we started this back in 2017, we started with Tulip. They were right there beside us on the production lines, building products. And as we were trying things in our standards and in Tulip, providing us that really important feedback up front as to what works or what new things we might want to consider. So acquiring that feedback on the front end is important, because I think it gets you to buy-in and acceptance faster. And it's really an integral part of our process flow here at Mack. Again, I mentioned earlier the email help button, that was something that came out of that interaction, and our operators thought, hey, isn't there a way that we can communicate with you faster than me going to find a telephone and calling you and saying, hey, this is what I want to do. So that really kind of helped us drive that help button. And again, that's capturing all the other stuff that the operators don't care about, but they're really important to us as engineers. I always need to know, what process are you working on? If there's some kind of a communication issue, I might need to know the computer that they're working on. I need to know the operator in case I have additional questions. I need to know the specifics of what step they're on. So that really automates that whole process and gets us that information much more efficiently. And then I think just probably the last thought on this is, with this digital system, we have so many more tools in our toolbox that we just didn't have in our paper system. A great example, again, is those videos. Trying to really pick out the intricate details of running maybe a wire or something really complicated in the assembly, trying to deliver that message and make it consistent with a piece of paper and a picture doesn't always, the interpretation could be different, but if you provide a video that they can see those intricate details, they can replay it if they miss something, just adds a whole nother layer that we couldn't get to with pictures and just paperwork instructions.
Yeah, so if I were to summarize, Scott, getting their feedback and making sure that they're getting value of the application, it's key in the process as well.
Oh, absolutely. I guess maybe one more point on this is, our younger generation too, they're used to electronics, right? I think some of them were actually born with a phone in their hand. This is very natural for them, much more natural than a paper process. So the acceptance, the adoptance of a digital system is just so much easier.
Would you say, Scott, the expectations? Would you say the expectations sometimes are to have digital tools to begin with?
Yeah, and I definitely would agree with that. It's just again having that background, and they're just used to texting and social media and doing all those things. This is just natural for them. So,
got it. Great. Well, Scott, thank you for sharing a little bit of your journey. We are in the third, I guess, stage of our webinar today, which is in which we think a little bit of, again, now that you guys have 6 years under your belt of Tulip, what are the things you have learned? what is it in the future? So let's start with how has digitization helped Mack in general to improve?
Yeah, so I really think about this from my perspective. My role here at Mack is to really grow our engineering talent, grow our business, and add value for our customers. Tulip helps us in every one of those ways. On the engineering talent side, we're exposing them to such new tools, to some programming, to regex, things that are really interesting and cool to them, and really making sure that we open their mind up to all the things that we can do in industry today. It's helping us really stay on that leading edge of manufacturing tools and software that's out there. I think the other thing is, we have partnered together since 2017, and both companies have really shown incredible growth, and I think that's important for both of us. And then we are going to continue with our development and our growth in the digital transformation. We'll never go back to paper. We're just so much more agile today, so much more efficient with Tulip in our systems. Having that real-time data today, when the issue occurs, gives me the opportunity to take resources and focus them on that issue. I'm not finding out about things that were an issue yesterday today, where I really don't have an opportunity to impact it in any positive way anyway. So it has truly helped us grow, as a company, and a big part of that is our digital systems here with Tulip. So
that's great to hear. And Scott, this is probably the question that everybody's waiting to hear from, like why most of our audience joined today. For those who are getting started, for those who are at the beginning of that journey, what would you say? What are your recommendations? Where should they start?
Yeah, one of the things that we did as we started this journey out, as we went out and we benchmarked other companies, we looked at other companies that had started this journey or completed this journey, and we asked them a lot of the questions around pitfalls and things to consider. What were some of their learning moments? We really wanted to kind of leapfrog ahead and try to understand that. I would say on the other side of it, really make sure you have management's buy-in. That's going to be important to you to get to that next step. Create your own Tulip team, like we did. We created our internal Tulip team that consists of 8 cross-functional engineering team members. We span our manufacturing engineering group, our quality engineering group, and our design engineering group, and that's really enabled them to, at first when we started this journey, develop those standards. Everything about how we did Tulip to today. That team is actually still very active today. We meet once a week. We work on things today like, did we experience any issues since our last meeting? Any new tools that have come out that we want to consider? Looking at our roadmap going forward, and how are we going to continue to grow? Even though we've been doing this for 6 or 7 years now, there's clearly a starting line when it comes to digitalization, but what I've come to realize is there really isn't a finish line. You come into this with a mission statement and a project, and as you go through that journey, you really learn that there's so much more to it. There's so many more tools, so many more things to look at that you can do with it. So it really kind of looks more like continuous improvement than anything. You're just learning new ways and better ways of doing it, and I think that's a good thing. So create that Tulip team, create your standards, try to start small, start with things where you can get a quick win, where you can get those early adopters, let them help you continue to drive your progress as you go forward. So I guess that would probably be my biggest suggestions.
Excellent. And I just wanted to add something again, having had the chance of seeing your operations, which is a little bit beyond your playbook, but in my life, I've seen very process-oriented, light-off operations that are not very dynamic. I've also seen scrappy startup agile operations that need to move quickly. I think the magic of Mack Molding is that you guys are forced to do both, and you're doing it right. And so the message to the audience here is that, to be blunt, you might not be a contract manufacturer, but there are things you can learn from the way they do this, because again, this balance of agility, but also being process-driven, it's actually amazing to see, and it's done very well. So congratulations to you and the team, because again, you guys found a great way to operate for your business.
Yeah, and I think we really did that by learning to fail fast, right? Fail fast, learn, continue to ask questions. Don't be afraid to fail. We learn from failing, as the saying goes, that which does not kill us makes us stronger, right? So don't be afraid of that. Experiment, ask questions. Even though, again, we're this far into our digitalization process, we're still learning every day. And again, those new tools are being released, and they play an impact for us. So I'd like to say we're pros at this, but we are still learning a lot as we go, and it's always a very interesting process.
It's a learning curve. And speaking of questions, that's the time we got into our webinar for today. So I just wanted to stop here in this slide for a second, just to show you all the other content that we have been putting together to help you through your journey. But this is a moment, and again, in which we're gonna just open the floor for questions. I think Amy's gonna help us moderate.
Absolutely. So one question is, how long did it take to convert one cell from paper to digital? And did you have a team of engineers focused on this specifically?
Yeah, that's a great question. For us, it really depends because of the breadth of what we do. If it's a few pages, it's probably a few days. But if it's a process is really complex, and there's 100 to 150 slides that you need to put in there, it's definitely going to take longer to create those. It takes us, on average, about 25% longer to create a Tulip app than it would for paper. But there's a real bias in that statistic that I want to make sure that everybody understands. It's not just paper, right? We're doing so much more with it. We are providing instructions to an operator on how to build or how to inspect something. We are collecting that genealogy data in our calibration and our shelf life data. It's controlling the flow of how the operator progresses through the app to build the product. That stuff takes a little bit longer, but the quality of what comes out of it is going to be much higher. The operators are going to be much happier with it. As far as a team, we're really set up with a manufacturing and a quality engineer per product line. They really focus on creating those apps. Manufacturing engineers really looking at creating the work instructions to process. The quality engineers looking at the inspection, the risk. We're looking at it as a team, but just for ownership purposes, they're looking at it from quality side, the risk, the genealogy, testing, and so forth. So it really depends for us.
Okay, great. Another question is, what type of data is collected through each sequence of the job traveler? And is that data visible to the operator so that any trends or out of tolerances are flagged?
Yeah, absolutely. So, again, it depends on the customer and the requirements for our customer. It's typically anything that's traceable, anything that could be potential for like a recall situation. So high risk things like PCB boards, welded parts, things like that. So we're capturing all of that genealogy data. We're capturing all anytime you touch a calibration tool, we have to capture what tool is used in case, we would have to bound around a tool, and the same goes for our shelf life. Does the operator see that data? Absolutely. We're populating that onto the screen. Again, I talked earlier about validating data on point of entry. So if there's something wrong with it, we don't let the system progress. We do a pop-up on the screen. We reflect back to the operator what they entered, scanned, and then tell them a little bit about why it isn't correct so that they can correct the situation. I'd like to add too on that question, as part of our standardization, we decided early on, on a color scheme for communicating messages through Tulip. So, we use a scheme of a yellow information box is just information. We're just saying that was good data, congratulations, you completed the operation, or something to that effect. Whereas a red box indicates to the operator immediately, stop, something is wrong. And within that box, we're going to tell them, again, we're reflecting back what they entered and why we feel that it's not correct. And we stop all motion and moving forward with the assembly process.
Great. Okay, another question. So looking ahead, what are Mack Molding's next steps regarding digital transformation, and are there any new technologies or strategies on the horizon?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely impacted our transformation in every way. I think that our apps just made everything more natural for us. Made the process easier for us as engineers. It made it easier for our operators. It's always going to be a learning experience, and we're continuing to learn that. And as far as new technologies, it's like every day something new is popping up. We're always looking at those new technologies, new strategies, really looking and considering how are we doing things, and do we want to change them. That's really kind of the primary focus of our management team, as well as our internal Tulip team. So absolutely.
Great. Okay, another question. How did implementing digital solutions impact the day-to-day work of operators and engineers? And were there any notable improvements in, say, productivity or even job satisfaction? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Right away out of the gate, we noticed a very positive impact on the acceptance, the training. It's much better, much easier, much more efficient for us to train operators. And again, consider that workforce that may move from one line to another, or stations to stations. There's a lot of training. Definitely much easier for us to train using Tulip. Our analytics, so we have analytics at the end of every line that really kind of measure, what we tell the operators, basically what our expectations are. So what are we expecting per day, per week, and then we measure how we're doing with that. It created a really great competition. Everybody wants to win, so they were constantly looking at those dashboards. They were constantly looking at ways to improve the process to make it more efficient, providing that feedback back to engineering. So I think that was all really, really good and really positive. Noticeable improvements, absolutely. So a couple cases that I can share here. One of our continuous flow production lines, we had set that line up, and we're still in our development phase, our design transfer. And one of the things that we noticed is, the output of that line didn't really match what our model said it should be. It seemed like the line was running slower. We suspected maybe the line was starved. It wasn't getting something when it really needed it to hit that efficiency point. As we dug more into it using the analytics from our Tulip apps, we noticed that it was, in fact, the line was starved on the front side. So sub-assemblies were building offline and feeding into the line weren't really getting there quick enough. And what it enabled us to do, it was really obvious, once we saw in the analytics, is we changed the sub-assemblies so they're better in tune with that main line. Had better cadence. They knew when they were on cycle and when they were not on cycle. And what that enabled us to do was, we were able to take a production line that had 14 operators on it and reduce it down to 12 operators once we had that timing and had all of that flowing as we really expected it to. So, that was a pretty big, pretty substantial change for us on that production line. And it better helped us meet the requirements that our customers were looking for and expected. The second scenario, pretty similar. Again, it was a continuous flow line. This time, we noticed really the same thing on that line. It seemed like it wasn't hitting what we had designed it to hit. And the difference this time, looking at the analytics, is on the line, we saw that we had some balance issues. So, some operators were waiting for parts, whereas other operators couldn't move their parts out of their station because the person or the operation in front of them wasn't at the same speed. So the way we dialed in on this is we used a pretty creative solution. There's one of the buttons on our master template is waiting for parts. And what we did is temporarily instructed them to use that button differently. So if you've completed your operation and you can't do anything because you're waiting for parts, you're going to hit that. Or if you can't move it, we're going to hit it that way too. What that does is it sets a flag in Tulip for us, and it takes them to another screen. The other screen has another button that basically says, okay, tell me when you're ready to restart. When they hit that button, it changes that flag back. So in our analytics, we could go in and then look at that flag and see when it was tripped, how long it was tripped for, and we knew what station it was at, so we could focus on optimizing and balancing those stations to get that line really in sync and at that cadence. And, in that scenario, we're able to take 19 minutes out of the assembly time on that production line. So that's very real in manufacturing.
Yeah, that's very impressive. Well, we are coming up to time, and I wanted to allow Humberto to jump in and add any final thoughts that he might have before we wrap things up here for our audience.
Well, no, just basically reiterating thanks to SME, and thank you, Scott and Mac, for the opportunity and also working together in this content. We hope that for the audience members, we hope that this was useful for you. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And again, we hope you join in our next webinar series to keep learning more about how to use Tulip to digitize your operations.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for joining us and sharing your valuable insights. And thank you to all of our attendees for their participation. And make sure you check out all of our upcoming events, news, webinars, podcasts by visiting us at advancedmanufacturing.org. Take care, everybody.